bitter truth that landlocked countries face significant challenges and higher transport costs compared to their coastal counterparts. These countries are highly dependent on the infrastructure, transport, and ports of their neighboring coastal nations. This dependence makes it difficult for them to fully integrate into global markets, particularly in manufacturing, which has traditionally been a key driver of development. According to the United Nations Office of the High Representative for the Least Developed Landlocked Countries, the lack of access to the sea, isolation from global markets, and high transit costs impose serious constraints on the socio-economic development of these countries. Currently, there are 44 landlocked countries and 4 landlocked de facto states in the world. Among them, Kazakhstan is the largest landlocked country, while Ethiopia is the most populous landlocked country located nearest to the sea. Welcome to ABC World, where we shed light on the challenges faced by landlocked countries with a focus on Ethiopia and possible solutions. I am your host, Tabitha John. Stick around for an enlightening discussion. Historically, only 30 countries were landlocked in 1990. However, due to various geopolitical changes and the creation of new nations, the number increased to 44. These changes resulted from the dissolution of the Soviet Union and Czechoslovakia, the breakup of Yugoslavia, and the independence referendums of several regions. These new landlocked countries faced political and economic disadvantages due to their lack of access to international waters. The economic disadvantages of being landlocked can vary depending on factors such as development level, trade routes, language barriers, and more. While some landlocked countries in Europe like Andorra, Austria, and Switzerland have prosperous economies, the majority of landlocked countries, particularly those in Africa, Asia, and South America, are classified as landlocked developing countries by the United Nations. These countries often face significant challenges in trade due to the need to transit through other developing countries, border crossing complexities, and inadequate infrastructure. Landlocked developing countries like Ethiopia face even greater hurdles. Their seaborne trade must navigate through other developing countries, resulting in higher costs and logistical complications. This geographic disadvantage compounds the existing challenges faced by these countries and limits their potential for sustainable development. It is worth noting that out of the 32 landlocked developing countries, 17 are classified as least developed nations. Unlike landlocked developed countries in Europe, landlocked developing countries are remote from major world markets. This isolation leads to longer transit times, difficult terrain, inefficient transport systems, and higher transport costs. In fact, landlocked developing countries pay more than double the transport costs incurred by transit countries, reducing their competitiveness and discouraging potential investors. Trade between landlocked developing countries and their neighboring countries is often limited due to the similar economic challenges faced by both parties. In many cases, the neighboring countries also struggle with transport infrastructure issues, making it difficult for landlocked countries to establish efficient trade routes. Overall, landlocked developing countries lag behind in terms of development. Their economies rely heavily on a limited range of commodities, experience a large informal sector, weak social capacities, high unemployment rates, and low productivity. Furthermore, their exports are highly concentrated on a handful of products, leading to vulnerability. Landlocked developing countries spend a significant portion of their earnings on transport and insurance services, much more than the average for developed economies. This further burdens their economies and hinders their potential for growth. Being landlocked presents substantial challenges for poor countries, particularly in Africa. Ethiopia, as one of the fastest growing economies on the continent, faces significant obstacles due to its lack of direct coastal access. This limitation hampers efforts to achieve middle-income status and export-oriented industrialization. Ethiopia, bordered by 5 countries with access to the sea, has potential options for peaceful access to the sea. These options, if pursued, could have positive economic impacts, not only for Ethiopia, but for the entire region. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed recently highlighted the importance of further engagement and cooperation with neighboring countries to achieve a win-win situation for all. The quest for sea access remains a pressing issue for Ethiopia, with implication for its development and geopolitical positioning in the Horn of Africa. The outcome of these discussions will have a significant impact on the region's collective future. Thank you for joining us in this episode of EBC World. We will be back soon with different perspectives on similar topics. Goodbye for now. I'm Tabitha John. Thank you for watching.